let's discuss all the books that I read in 2024. This is going to be such a chill video. I'm sat here with my coffee and I'm going to get up all of the things that I read this year on my laptop, and we're going to go through each of my books that I read in 2024. As you can see, I don't really have a lot of them with me. I've already filmed this video twice and I didn't like how it looked, so I'm now filming it again in my uni accommodation. So in 2024 I read 29 books total, but I am also going to include another book because I've started it in 2024 but I haven't finished it and I still want to talk about it. So first of all, the first book that I read in 2024 was The Gingerbread Cafe by Laurie Gilmore. I don't actually have the book with me, but I will put it on the screen what it looks like. For any of the books I don't have with me, you'll just see. So I read basically the whole of the Dream Harbour series. That's The Gingerbread Cafe, The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, and The Christmas Tree Farm. I gave The Gingerbread Cafe a 3 out of 5, The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore a 4 out of 5, and The Christmas Tree Farm a 4 out of 5. But I don't even know if I'd give The Christmas Tree Farm a 4 out of 5. It does feel a bit generous. I think I just liked it because I read it at Christmas time and it was the last book of the year that I properly finished. I recommend The Gingerbread Cafe and the whole of the Dream Harbour series if you want something light and easy to read. It is such an easy book to fly through. I think I read all of those books in like 2 days. One thing to make note of is it does have spice in it, so if you're not into that, do not pick those books up. There are a few scenes in it which are quite, R-rated. Personally, not a big fan. Did not think it needed to happen. I think that we could have eradicated the spice. It didn't add anything to the story. It kind of just felt like really out of place in the world. I did really like the characters. I think the world was really, really cute to read about. I think that's my favourite part of the books, which is why I've read every single one of them. But I think they're just easy books to read if you just want something easy and chill, and it's really, really good book to read if you want to get back into reading because you don't have to try too hard. But yeah, so I read those books and then I finished off the Once Upon a Broken Heart series by Stephanie Garber, and I gave The Ballad of Never After a 5 out of 5, and I gave A Curse for True Love a 4 out of 5. So I started this series a while ago, and I read Once Upon a Broken Heart and I was like, I liked it, but I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I wasn't like, okay, I don't understand the hype, why everyone's obsessing over this. And then I picked up the second one and I started it and I DNF'd it, and I came back to it in 2024. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Such a great book. I really like the way that Stephanie Garber writes. Her writing style is very lyrical and very airy, and it kind of fits completely in the world that we're reading. So basically, if you don't know, the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy is kind of a spin-off of the Caraval series, but it's like a lot more in the future, I'm pretty sure. I think the main reason why I gave The Ballad of Never After a 5 out of 5 is because of the ending. The ending is so good that it made the rest of it, I was like, okay, this is worth it now. Like, I understand the hype, I understand why people love this, and I love Jax and Evangeline. They are great. But yeah, so I read those books, and then I read Before We Say Goodbye. So this is the 4th book of the Before the Coffee Gets Cold. Basically, it's a book made up of a bunch of mini stories, and this is the 4th one out of the books. And it was a very easy read. I think I gave it a 3 or 4 out of 5. It wasn't my favourite, but it's quite cute, and it was a really small little book that I kind of just read in 2024. I also just like the cover of it. It's a pink, I mean you'll see on the screen, but it's pink and it's got a cat on it. Just thought that was cute. I can't lie, I picked it up for the cover, but anyways. And then I read Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score, and I gave this book a 4 out of 5. However, I don't know if I would still give it that. It is a pretty decent book, but I'm not the biggest fan of it. So basically, this is kind of part of a series. I believe there are other ones, but I never have actually picked any of them up. I think I picked this up on a whim. I just randomly picked it up and I wanted to try it. It is a really long book though. It does also have spice in it, if I'm not mistaken. So Things We Never Got Over is about Naomi, who is a twin to Tina. And basically she runs away from her wedding and she ends up going to help her twin out in a nearby town or whatever. When she gets there, she basically finds that her twin is basically left her to look after her kid. So she's in this random town or whatever, and then she basically ends up meeting Knox, who is the love interest in the book, and they are very much grumpy sunshine type of duo, and he kind of takes her in and whatever. And I thought the book was pretty good. It was alright. I don't really know, it didn't really stick in my brain, like it wasn't super memorable. So I then read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson, I believe. If you haven't heard of this series, where have you been? I think you have. I think everyone and their mum has heard of this series, let's be for real. It is now a TV show on Netflix and BBC iPlayer, so you can watch it now. But I was kind of late to the bandwagon with this because it was a hype in like early book talk. And I had it on my TBR for ages, so I didn't pick it up. And then I finally picked it up. And I really, really enjoyed the first A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I gave it a 5 out of 5. I think the writing, you can definitely tell it is YA and it is made for younger people. But it's like a mystery sort of book. But I like the fact that it's her doing her EPQ and she basically is trying to uncover this case that got closed a while ago. And yeah, it was a pretty decent book. I liked it. If you haven't read it, read it, because I think it's one of those ones that I think that everyone has read already. So, you know. And then I picked up Good Girl, Bad Blood, and that one I didn't like as much. I think I gave that a 4 out of 5. It was still pretty decent and I still liked it, but it wasn't like, you know, as good. I found the plot twist and I was like less involved with the characters. And then I read Fourth Wing, which I think everyone and their mum has read this as well. It is, I can't lie to you, it's one of those book talk books that I do understand the hype. I understand the hype behind Fourth Wing. Me and my friend were like messaging about it and we were like, we're so excited for the new Fourth Wing. Literally so excited for it. But anyways, if you haven't heard of Fourth Wing, it's about dragons. There are 4 different quadrants. We've got the riders, scribes, healers, and the infantry. And our main character, Violet, she's always wanted to be a scribe because her dad was a scribe. But her mum basically is like, no, you're going to be a rider. So she ends up, when she gets to a certain age, she ends up going for the riders quadrant. And she's kind of very much under, you know, she's smaller than the rest of the people. She gets underestimated a lot by her peers. So basically she has to go through all these kind of trials or whatever when she's at this quadrant to get to past first year, basically. And I don't really know how to say without spoiling anything else, but that's kind of the main like, you know, preface. But there is also romance in it with another character called Xaden, who I'm pretty sure everyone knows who Xaden Riorson is, let's be for real. But it's basically enemies to lovers, but they become lovers very quickly. Like it's very, you know that it's going to happen. It's quite predictable in that sense. But I think that I do like the book because I genuinely really love the setting. I love reading about dragons and I love how much detail that Rebecca Yarros has put into these books. Like it's great. I love reading it so much. And then I read Iron Flame a lot later in the year because I started Iron Flame and then I stopped it and then I basically read the whole of the Shatter Me series, but I will get to that in a second. But so I read Iron Flame and I gave Iron Flame a 4 out of 5. It wasn't as good. I did not realize how long Iron Flame was. Like I have looked at the paperback of it and it's like 700 words. Still a really, really good book. It's not as good as the first one. The first one I literally read in about 2 days and I was on holiday. Whereas the second one I started and then I stopped and then I came back to it. But I am really, really excited for the third one, which comes out this month and I'm so excited. So let's move on from that. The next book I read in the year was The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. And I gave this a 4 out of 5. Or actually, I think I gave it a 3 out of 5. I wasn't the biggest fan of this one. I've read other Riley Sager books the year before. The book called Lock Every Door was my favourite and one of my favourite like thrillers that I got into. I really, really enjoyed that one. But The House Across the Lake, I thought it had a lot of potential and I do really enjoy Riley Sager's writing. However, there is kind of some paranormal bits to the book and I wasn't as big of a fan of that in my personal opinion. I mean, some people might like that, but I really, really didn't like that and it felt like a cop-out for the book. It felt like Riley Sager was being a little bit cheap in terms of the plot and I feel like he just kind of wrapped it up too quickly and I didn't really like that. And like I said, I read the whole of the Shatter Me series this year. So I'd already read the first Shatter Me in 2023, I believe. And I then started the second Shatter Me, Unravel Me, and I read it on my Kindle, so I didn't really get into it. I kind of was like, this is okay, like I'm not really the biggest fan. But no, I picked it back up in 2024 when I was on holiday. I was on holiday with my friend and he did a book, so I went to the airport bookshop and I picked up Unravel Me, and I ate that book up. I loved the whole, and then I picked up Ignite Me, and Ignite Me was even better than Unravel Me. I don't remember the individual ratings of what I gave all of them, but I know that Ignite Me and I think it was Restore Me, no, Define Me, I think, were my favorites, if I remember correctly. But I basically sat there and I read all of them, and I was obsessed with all of them, basically. It just felt like I was reading kind of what I read when I was younger in terms of dystopian books and stuff. And I know the Shatter Me books did come out a while ago, but so good. I thoroughly recommend, and they're bringing out another one, and I will be reading that as well, because I love the world that has been set up. It's really, really interesting to read about, and there's been so much thought. You can tell there's so much thought that's gone into the book. But then I read Magnolia Parks. I gave this book, I think, a 3 or 4 out of 5. I thoroughly like her writing style, which is one of the reasons why I gave the book a 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 5. But in terms of the plot, I wasn't really the biggest fan. So basically, it's about Magnolia, and she is kind of in this really toxic relationship with BJ Valentine, who is like, they've kind of been in and out of a relationship like for a while. They've known each other for like, I think like since they were kids or something. I just really hated their relationship. I was not rooting for them at all, and I don't think you are meant to be rooting for them. I think they're meant to be all be very unlikable characters, but then it just made me feel really disconnected from the book, because it's like, if I'm not rooting for them, then why do I care? Why do I care about these characters? I didn't care about these characters. The only reason why I finished the book was because I loved her writing style. I know some people really do like this series, but I just think it's like, it kind of romanticizes toxic relationships and like abuse and stuff, and I'm not really a big fan of that. But yeah. And then I read, so now I can actually bring up the books I have with me. I read When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. Look at this monstrosity of a book. I picked this up because of the cover, because like, look how pretty this cover is. It's such a beautiful cover. And also like the map in the inside, like gorgeous. Oh my god. I think I gave this a 4 out of 5. I would have given it a 5 out of 5, but there were a few scenes in this that I was not a big fan of because they were spice scenes. Not the biggest fan of them. I'm sorry guys, sorry to say it, but I'd rather not read about that, especially when it doesn't fit with the story. I think that Sarah A. Parker, I feel like she struggled a little bit with what she wanted to do with this book, because this book made me question myself so much, because I was just like, I don't know whether I like this or not. The first half of the book I hated, the second half I loved, which is why I'm giving it a 4 out of 5. The first beginning of the book, it has a prologue, and I really like the way that she talks about all of the different gods in this world, and it's a really, really great introduction to the world that we're in, and really like builds the world. And I like how much thought there is into the world building of this world. There is a lot to kind of understand and grasp, and it did take me a while to understand it. And even now, has been a while since I've read this, so it's kind of slipped out of my mind a little bit. However, I felt like the dynamic between our main 2 kind of love interests, I just wasn't the biggest fan of. I don't know whether it was meant to be enemies to lovers, but it just didn't really hit for me, and it felt very book talky. But I really hated their dynamic, and the way that they spoke to each other just made me cringe. Like, I'm sorry, it made me really cringe. I really would bring out some quotes right now, but I haven't like underlined anything. I think that's why this book, I gave it a 4 instead of a 5, because I just didn't like that at all. And there were some spice scenes in there that I was like, okay, but did we need this? No, we did not. It did not make sense for the characters to be like that. Also, Rave, her character, I think that she was, like, she started off really cool, but then I kind of found her annoying by the end of it. And I was like, I don't know if I'll pick up the second one. I know the second one comes out this year, but I don't know whether or not I will. Yeah, so that's my opinion on that. And then I read Days at the Moriarty Bookshop. This book is so cute. I gave it a 4 out of 5 because it's not anything extraordinary, but it's such a little cutesy read. But basically it's set in Japan, and it's about this woman who moves in with her uncle, and she basically is kind of like having a midlife crisis, because she's like, I don't know what to do with my life, like I don't know what's going on. I think she was with this person that she was dating, and then he cheated on her, and she was like, okay, I don't know what to do now. So she moves in with her uncle. She starts working at the secondhand bookshop, and it's just in this really cute neighborhood in Japan, and it's just so wholesome, and I love her relationship with her aunt and her uncle, and it's just, oh, I love the family relationships and the romantic, like all of the relationships in the book. And I actually really want to read the next one, because I know there's another book. I read Agatha Christie, Sad Cypress. As you can see, very, very small book. I literally just picked this up randomly in the charity shop because I love mini books like this. Like, look how cute and small it is. And also it's like yellowed pages, so you can tell that it's an old book, which I love that. I think I gave this a 4 out of 5. It was okay. It was pretty good. So basically, if you don't know Agatha Christie, get to know. She does crime and thriller and murder mystery and everything like that. This is my first Agatha Christie book that I've ever read, and I definitely want to get into more of her books. I do have another one of her books on my bookshelf that I would like to read in 2025, but I really like this book. I like the fact that the cover, it basically kind of foreshadows the book for you. Each of these different items kind of have some meaning as to what happens, and I love Poirot, his character. He's such a fun, goofy character to read about. Like, I think the way that he interacts with people is really funny in my opinion. But yeah, it was a really cutesy read, and I read this basically whilst I was reading this. 2 completely different books, but I basically picked up Daydream by Hannah Grace, and this book is... Am I gonna get murdered by someone who loves Hannah Grace? I wasn't the biggest fan. I didn't hate it. I gave it 3 out of 5, which I don't know if that's too generous. Maybe I'd give it a 2 out of 5. Okay. I found with this book, I really liked our main male character, Henry. I actually did like Hallie as well. They were a cute couple, but there was no sort of kind of conflict between the two. There was no angst. There was nothing else going on between the two characters. They kind of met and they kind of already got on. There was no build up of like emotions. It was very much like, I like you, you like me, okay, cool. And that was it. Apart from Hallie had like an ex-boyfriend who was like controlling and he was questionable. But I do love Henry. He's great character. He's like the ideal boyfriend. He's so cute to Hallie. And also I just love his character in general. I relate to him so much. But apart from that, this book, also, because look how big it is. Did we need it to be that big? Hannah Grace, we need it to be like 400 pages long. No. There are a few spice scenes in this, just to make aware. I know Hannah Grace's covers look very like cutesy, but no, there are spice scenes in this, if you don't know. I don't know, not the biggest fan. And then I read one of my favourite books of the year, easily, The Secret History by Donna Tartt. My friend, who might be watching this, is probably going to be like screaming like, yes, you should like this book. Because she basically told me to read it, because I was like, okay, I've been wanting to read it for ages, and then I finally picked it up. I'm so glad that I did, because this is my new obsession. I know everyone talks about this book. So if we don't know what this is about, so this is a modern classic, and it's by Donna Tartt, and we're set in New England college, and our main character Richard, who is all from his perspective basically, and he gets caught up in this friendship group that they all study basically classics together, and like ancient Greek and Latin and everything, and there's a murder. It does literally tell you in the first page that Bunny dies basically. So that's not a spoiler. And you kind of just get caught up in this friendship, and they are wild and wacky people. Like, they are odd characters. Like, I don't think any of them are normal in this book, apart from maybe Francis. I'd say he's normal and he's my favourite character, but everyone else in this book needs therapy because no one in this book is okay. And if your takeaway was from this book was, I want to be friends with them, I hope you're okay. I really hope you're okay, because that is, yeah. And it's very similar to If We Were Villains, if you've not read that, and I was obsessed with that when I read that in 2023. So, you know, not much else I have to say about that. Okay, and then I read a really random book. I picked up Invisible Kitties by Yu Yo Yo, and this book, I wasn't the biggest fan of, I'm gonna be honest. I do like it, I got it signed by her, like look how cute her signature is, so cute. Anyways, I picked it up because I read the blurb and it said that it was about a couple basically getting a cat and it was like their experience with it, and I thought that was really cute. However, that's kind of not what this book is about. Like it is, but the way that it's written is kind of misleading in my opinion. I gave this like a 2 or 3 out of 5. I think like maybe a 2. It wasn't my favorite, to be honest with you, but each chapter it's kind of like a bunch of short stories together, and I think the way that she writes is very interesting to me because she doesn't use, so our main character is not referred to any name. The husband of the main character is just referred to as husband, and the cat is just referred to as cat. There's no sort of connection that we have to these characters. We don't really understand the characters or understand anything about them. We're very, like there's a massive border between us and the characters. I don't really feel connected to them. Just wasn't the biggest fan, not really for me, but yeah. And then, I've already spoken about these books on here, but I read Powerless and Reckless by Lauren Roberts. I did not think I would be saying this year. I said to myself I was never going to pick up these books. You know, one of the reasons why I did is because of the covers. I really thoroughly like these covers and they can sit on my bookshelf now. Both of these books are about 3 out of 5 for me. Not the biggest fan. I don't hate them, and I think they have potential to be good, and I probably will read the third one when it comes out because I want to finish the series. I think if you need something easy to read, they are YA, so there's no spice, nothing like that, which I thoroughly enjoyed reading because I don't like reading about that type of stuff. And I like the fact that their relationship between Peyton and Guy, their relationship was kind of, they don't kiss kind of throughout the whole book, which I think it says something, and I quite enjoy that, like the fact that it's more built on tension. However, I found like the way that they interacted with each other, I just really hated. I'm sorry to say it. I really didn't like reading it. It made me cringe so many times. The amount of times that he calls her darling in the book. And I know there's a lot of controversy about these books as well because they are quite a big copy of The Hunger Games and Red Queen. Powerless, the whole like first 300 pages is a very big copy of The Hunger Games. The second one, less so, but I actually think I enjoyed the second one more than the first one because it felt more original. Yeah, I'm excited to see what she does for the third one. I am excited to read it, but I think that these books are just, you know, I think it could be better, but fair enough. And those are all the books that I read in 2024. Sorry that this video has probably been a bit of me rambling. I've already filmed this video twice, so I feel like my brain is jelly talking about these books. Let me know what you read in 2024, and I definitely will be doing more book videos this year. I'm very excited to do more. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you somewhere else on the internet. Bye!